fashionistas, I hope everything is going well and I hope you're having a lovely day. Today I'm going to talk about several issues that have to do with the cruelty-free. As you know, my channel is declared as cruelty-free. What exactly does that mean? What do I believe in? Several things that you might want to know, several comments that have been made. So stick around and I'll try to give you some responses to certain things. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what does cruelty-free mean, at least in my point of view, and what does that mean about my channel. When I started doing YouTube, I wasn't yet clearly into it, and the more I got into blogging about makeup and cosmetics, I learned more, and I would say that most of my cosmetics, 80 to 90%, were cruelty-free, not tested on animals already. But I made my decision that my channel will not, and I will no longer own anything that is tested on animals when I decided to really get into this. So that was a decision I made at least 2 years ago, and I'm happy to say that I've been keeping it going. What does it mean when I say cruelty-free? It means not tested on animals. And I know that for some people that is a little bit problematic, that definition, because cruelty-free supposedly for some people means that there's absolutely no harm done towards animals. And for me, the difference, I have two definitions. My channel is completely cruelty-free, but then also sometimes I highlight or I mention that something is vegan. Now, if something is vegan, it means that it doesn't have any components from animal byproducts or animals. And that's the difference, at least on my channel. There's cruelty-free and there's vegan. Now, if you see something on my channel that is vegan, obviously it's cruelty-free, but that's not the case in reality. There are vegan products that might not have any products made out of animals or byproducts, but it doesn't mean that they're not tested on animals. I mean, you have a very clear definition out there these days. I mean, Urban Decay had or still has some products that are vegan, that have no components made out of animals. But Urban Decay, by the vast majority of the cruelty-free community, is not considered an okay company because they're owned by L'Oreal, that, as you might know already, test on animals. So there you have a case of a company that is clearly vegan, or some of the products are vegan, but the company is not cruelty-free. It's just not. So you have that very good example, and you have to understand that things can be either or they can be both, but it doesn't mean that something vegan is cruelty-free or cruelty-free has to be also vegan. There's no connection. There are two things. They're two completely different definitions. They are based on the welfare of animals, both, but they're not. One is not an indicator of the other, and you have to keep that in mind. You have to separate those two things, and yeah, there is a difference between vegan and not vegan. Now, the other question that you might be asking is, what is my source for cruelty-free? How do I know if something is cruelty-free or not? Well, my first source is a list. You have to pick the list you pick for. You have to know about how the list is compiled. That means if you decide to use PETA, you have to go through and understand what PETA does in order to certify a company as being cruelty-free. And once you understand that, you have to figure out if if it corresponds with the beliefs that you have. Specifically for me, I use a list that you can find online, and it's made by, I will link it down below. I'll try to link it down below. I hope it's a linkable link list. It's done in a Word format, so there shouldn't be a problem. It's done by another YouTuber here on YouTube. She's also cruelty-free, and she put together this list, and it's a list that's very dynamic. It gets changed at least once every few months. It gets updates, and it gets sometimes added. It does have some indie companies on it already, and it's done by Maya Blumenfield, and that is my list. Now, the list is split into two. It's split into Israeli companies and non-Israeli companies, so I imagine for most of you, you'll just use the non-Israeli companies. But it's divided also into that. It's also divided into companies that are okay and companies that are not. And for a very good reason, because sometimes you think a company is okay and you look it up and it's not on the okay list, and you go, well, maybe that's just a mistake. Maybe it's just time until it gets into the list. But then if you see it in the blacklist, you know that it's not okay. And that's why you need both parts of that list. The way the list is compiled is based on 4 questions. A company, in order to be in the OK list, has to respond to 4 questions asked, and these questions are built in such a way that a company cannot use legal mumbo jumbo in order to what's the word, schmooze us. Okay, schmooze us. Because sometimes you see companies that state something along the lines of, our company believes in animal welfare and we do not test on animals since 19 something, and we don't test on animals, and then you see the next sentence is, unless required by law. And you should just know that that statement is done. I've never seen it in any other company that is cruelty-free for real, but I've seen it at companies that try to present it as if they're okay, but they're not. And the reason they use that statement is there are companies that really don't test on animals, but they want to sell in China, and because they want to sell in China, they test on animals. And a really good example of that was when Stila changed their legal statement, and cruelty-free, the cruelty-free community noticed it. And that was when Stila moved into the no-no list, even before they sold 1 product in China. But that's an indicator, that's a huge indicator. You should just know that cruelty-free companies don't say statements like that. They're very flat out. We do not test on animals, period. There's no ifs, there's no buts, and there's no unless, there's no getting around it. It's just so flat out. And apparently so is my hair. But there's no getting around that. That is so clear, that is so definitive. Really, you just have to understand that, and once you know that, that really shines a huge light on a lot of things you might see. The last thing that I am going to comment about is my personal use of bourgeois. And the reason I do refer to this, I will refer to this video in the future, is because I know that bourgeois is not considered on the OK part for some people, and I'm going to talk about bourgeois is the only company that I consider gray. That means, as far as I'm concerned, anything owned by L'Oreal or any other company is not cruelty-free. They're not gray, they are just not cruelty-free. And bourgeois is the only one that I really have an exception about, and the reason is because I'm aware a little bit about how corporations are built, and I did a little bit of research, and I read a ton of stuff, and I got referred to a lot of stuff, and here's the story as far as I understood it. The owner of the vast majority, the shareholder, I think that's what it's called in English, the shareholder, the person who has most of the shares within bourgeois, that means he has the real control of the company, has some shares within Chanel. Now, bourgeois does not test an animal, and they do not sell in China. I will mention that they do sell in Tokyo, but Tokyo is not China. Tokyo, you do not have to test on animals for safety reasons, so you should just be aware of that. Just because Tokyo is not China, they treat them as 2 different countries for this particular matter. Now, the person who has the vast majority, the shareholder in bourgeois, does have shares in Chanel, but does not have he is not the shareholder. He's not the person who controls the company. Now, he does benefit from both companies, but he doesn't have control in the other company. And if he did, I would think otherwise as to how I would treat this. But he doesn't have the control to say bourgeois is not going to be, that Chanel is not going to be testing on animals anymore. I feel that even when everything in the world will be no longer tested on animals, I will never personally buy Chanel. Chanel are really big on having fur on their catwalk and in their fashion shows, so I would have a very hard time buying anything from them knowing that, because something about fur just, and as far as I'm concerned, that is a social taboo. Leather is not quite there yet, and that's why I won't ban a company simply because they have leather, but I will never buy leather. And the other thing about Chanel, it's a personal reason. It's more about the fact that Chanel isn't exactly, they're kind of anti-Semites, or at least were. It's very complicated. I'm not going to go into this video. And since I'm Jewish and I spend quite a bit of my time, at least 16 hours a month, because that's one of the volunteer programs that I'm in right now, fighting and combating against anti-Semitism online, and that's just, you know, can't buy Chanel, won't be able to for a while at least. So that's a little bit of an info about cruelty-free, vegan, etc. If you like this video, as always, please give it a like. Or really, you know, it makes my day. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below to get more updates about my videos and when I upload. Don't forget to check out my Pinterest blog and my Facebook page and my Twitter and Instagram. Did I mention everything? I think I did. It's all the links will be down below. Anything else relevant will be down below in the description box. If you have a comment, please leave it down below. I would love to read it. And that's all, everybody. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.